It's live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Frazier, and welcome to the Power is Now Buyers and Sellers Club. We're going to hang out for a few minutes while we watch people join this webinar. I want to thank you for your time this evening, and hopefully this will be a valuable evening of great information. Okay, we're going to start this show in a few minutes. Nick, it looks like it might be a great night. Okay, it's a few minutes after 7 p.m. We're going to get started in just a few minutes here, waiting for others to join. So let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Frazier. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me to talk about owning real estate, becoming a first-time home buyer, or perhaps if you own a home already, maybe moving up and buying something larger, better, or if you're interested in investing in real estate. Tonight, I'm going to share a lot of information that's going to help you make a decision to buy if you don't buy. And if those of you who own real estate already, perhaps this is the time to consider buying even more. So hang in there with us. We're going to be talking about a lot as it relates to the economy, inflation. In fact, I have a full PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share with you in just a minute here, and we'll get started with this presentation. So tonight is the Buyers and Sellers Club. That's what we call it, the Buyers and Sellers Club. And this is a program of the Power is Now online radio. This is a program of the Power is Now in general. And I'll share more about the Power is Now in just a few minutes. Here's an outline of what we're going to be covering over the next hour and a half. First of all, we're going to talk about the Power is Now Wealth Initiative. I'm very proud of this wealth initiative because it's all about changing mindsets and helping people get into home ownership. The state of housing for minorities. You might be shocked to hear what's happening with minorities as it relates to home ownership. The 10-point wealth building pledge. That's a pledge that we have created for those who are members of the Buyers and Sellers Club, and we'll get into details about that. The wealth gap between whites and blacks, and this gap is continuing to increase. We'll talk about real estate and the effect of inflation. Inflation is robbing us all of our purchasing power, and if you don't get in now, you may not be able to buy later. And in regard to inflation, we'll talk about appreciation of real estate over the last year, 2015. It's pretty amazing and what's been happening, and we don't see any end of this type of appreciation that's happening, particularly in California, stopping at all. We'll talk about the rental market and what's happening with rentals and the escalating prices of rentals. Then we'll get into the history of interest rates. For there are those who are out there who believe that interest rates may remain low for a long time, or they're just not worried about interest rates going up. And so I just want to remind you gently that it can happen in a major way and rob you of your purchasing power. Then we're going to end the presentation tonight talking about the Sapphire program, which is, I believe, the best program on the market today to help first-time home buyers. In fact, you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer. You can be a move-up buyer. You can just buy your second home. You have to live in it, of course. There's some rules around that, and we're going to get into the details of the Sapphire program. So that's the agenda for tonight, for this webinar. Again, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to join me tonight to talk about home ownership. Now, by way of introduction, I am a real estate broker. I'm also a mortgage broker. I've been married for 33 years. I have 4 daughters. Actually, it's 34 years. I need to change that slide. 34 years I've been married to Ruby Lee Frazier, and we have together given birth to 4 incredible daughters who are all in real estate. One, in fact, is still in college. She's in her 2nd year. The other 3 have graduated with their MBAs. All are licensed real estate professionals. So I'm very proud of that. The Frazier family is a real estate family. In fact, we own a real estate company in downtown Riverside called Frazier Group Realty. My wife is the president and CEO, and my daughters are all agents of the company. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. We moved out to California when I was the precious age of 3, and I've been a native of the IE all that time. I live here in Riverside, beautiful Riverside, California, and we've been here for about 14 years. We moved here, in fact, to be close to our kids. In fact, I didn't want them to live on the dorm, so I decided to buy a house here in Riverside so they can attend the University of Riverside, California. I have a degree in business administration and management and an MBA in finance from Redlands University. And I've been a lender for over 33 years. 33 years working with some of the big banks. I'm sure you may have heard of them, like Home Savings of America, Washington Mutual, Wells Fargo, going back even Security Pacific and First Interstate Bank, even Norwest Financial. I've worked with mortgage banks as well, and today I'm an independent mortgage broker and very proud of it. I'm also a real estate broker for the last 23 years, and my wife and I have been acquiring and selling real estate over the last really 30 years of our marriage. As I mentioned before, my wife is the founder. I'm the co-founder. We're the co-founders of Frazier Group Realty, and I want to invite you to check out FrazierGroupRealty.com if you are in the Riverside area. I'm also the president and CEO of The Power Is Now, which is a multimedia company. We are in everything, folks, from magazines to TV to events like this, live events. And we also have a mortgage services and real estate services division of The Power Is Now. Power Is Now started several years ago, and it's been an incredible ride. And I'm so happy to be able to put on events like this for people who are interested in becoming home owners. I'm also the president of the Orange County Realtors. That's Orange County, California. And I'm a Realtist, which is a member of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. You have Realtors and you have Realtists. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors, and Realtists are members of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And the National Association of Real Estate Brokers began in 1947 during the Jim Crow period. For those of you who don't know your history, this was a very challenging time for African Americans in the United States. These laws prevented us from eating at the same restaurants, drinking from the same fountains, using the same restrooms, and there's a number of other limitations that were put upon African Americans, and one in particular, you couldn't be a part of many different business associations or real estate associations, including the National Association of Realtors. That was in 1947. Today, things have improved significantly, but the organization still exists because there is a need to work with our constituency, African Americans who have been underserved for many years. Since the Emancipation Proclamation, they've been underserved as it relates to homeownership and opportunity, and the stats do reflect that even today. I'm also a member of the California Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the state chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and I'm the president of the Orange County chapter, which is the first chapter ever in Orange County. I'm the founding president of that association. Please go to ocrealtist.org if you're in Orange County, or if you're looking for a chapter, go to our state chapter, CAREB.org, the California Association of Real Estate Brokers. If you're looking for a chapter in the state of California, and if you happen to be listening throughout the United States, go to NAREB, NAREB.com, and check out a local chapter in your state or area and become a member today. I would appreciate it, and I know that the 11 men and 1 female who began this organization in 1947, imagine the courage it took to do it, would appreciate it as well. The Power Is Now is a licensed real estate company. Our license number is 19, that's the state of California license number, BRE 1980407. And we are a licensed mortgage brokerage, NML license number 1435243. I am the founder of The Power Is Now, founder, president, and CEO. And my individual license as a real estate broker is 011434484. And my NMLS license number is 461807. I've been helping people to achieve the dream of homeownership for many years. And again, I'm excited to be able to do it through this platform. Everything is happening online, folks. And there's a saying in our business, if you're not online, you really don't exist. The Power Is Now is a multimedia company. And we've been broadcasting real estate and lending education since 2009 for real estate professionals and for consumers. As a mortgage brokerage, The Power Is Now has access to many lenders. We're approved with many lenders that offer all types of programs, from first-time home buyers to move-up buyers to investors. We do FHA, VA, we do conventional loans of all types. We do portfolio, we even do hard money and commercial loans. So we cover the gambit of product to help our clients achieve the American dream of homeownership or to invest in real estate. We are a full service mortgage brokerage and real estate company. Our mission of The Power Is Now is to inspire and to educate and empower real estate professionals and consumers to build wealth through real estate. It's so important that we build wealth through real estate, particularly for minorities, because we don't really find ourselves involved in most other things than real estate when it comes to building wealth. And so we want to assist you in building wealth through real estate with information, services, and support that will give you the power to act now and not later. Acting later may result in you not investing or owning a home at all because of prices increasing and inflation and many other factors that could affect your ability to buy a home. So that's our mission statement. Our vision statement is to be a powerful resource for real estate professionals and consumers to help them buy or sell to achieve their personal, family, and business goals to build wealth. and to leave an inheritance and a legacy for their family. That is the only way the minority communities across the United States are going to go to the next level, is that someone has to take ownership. Someone has to be the leader and to buy real estate, hold on to it, and leave it for the next generation. And in doing so, giving the next a leg up. Our company slogan is our name. The power is now. We are at our best and we maximize our success when we act now. That's our slogan, and I believe it. I believe the pathway to power and wealth is through real estate. I know you can come up with a great business idea, maybe even an app, and become a billionaire. But for most people, the barrier to entry is very low. You can build wealth. You can have power by owning real estate. And we certainly hope to encourage you to do it now. Do it now, because tomorrow may never come. We have the Power is Now Wealth Initiative to help people who are interested in building wealth through real estate. In fact, please go to neverrentagain.com. That's neverrentagain.com. This is a website where you will get resources and information and me to help your journey wealth through real estate. And if you go there, you'll see this website page, the Buyers and Sellers Club. Please become a member of the Buyers and Sellers Club. Whether you are a buyer or a seller, we have great resources and information for you. We want to help you go to the next level. We want to help you build wealth. And so this website is particularly for people who are interested in getting started to building wealth. In addition, we have a pledge. And we want you to take that pledge, because building wealth and owning real estate first begins with a change in your mindset. You got to believe that you can do it. And you have to believe that perhaps real estate, out of all the many other options you have, might be the best pathway for you to build wealth and to change your family's legacy. So go to the website, neverrentagain.com, and take the pledge. Become a member of the Buyers and Sellers Club today. So the Power is Now Wealth Initiative seeks economic empowerment for all people by changing their mindset towards financial literacy and wealth building. Normally, especially our younger people, aren't too concerned about it, and we want to get them concerned at a young age about being financially literate and about building wealth. The earlier you get started, the easier it will be for you to build wealth in life. So one of the reasons why this is so important, particularly in the minority community, is because African Americans and Hispanics were hit the hardest during the great financial crisis from 2007 to 2009, and we have the farthest to climb. While home values are rising quickly, it's more challenging for us for a number of factors, from unemployment to credit scores to income. There are a number of factors that are making it difficult for us to get back into the recovery that has taken place from the great financial crisis. And for many people, it may be too late for them to get into the game because they have just been hit very hard, or they haven't really tried to make the necessary adjustments in their spending and their behavior that will put them back on the track of owning a home again if they own one in the past, or owning their first home for the future. If you look at the state of housing for minorities, it's a pretty sad state of affairs. Among Caucasians or whites, it's 71% of whites are homeowners. I mean, 71% compared to African Americans at 41.6%. And unfortunately, those numbers are falling. They will continue to fall. There was a recent report put out by the Urban Institute, and I would like to encourage you to go to my website, thepowerisnow.com, and check out the blog that I wrote about it. I'm really upset about the article and about the stats, but I cannot deny the stats. They are discouraging, to say the least, but I believe we can turn the tide. One family at a time, we can. and we can see our homeownership rate increase. And in fact, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers has a 5-year pledge to put 2 million African Americans into homes over the next 5 years. And the organization, our president, Ron Cooper, is absolutely focused on doing that, but not just Ron Cooper. Every president in the line of succession after him is focused on achieving this 5-year plan, 2 million new African American homeowners in the United States. I believe it can be done. It's going to take financial literacy. It's going to take down payment assistance. It's going to take some changes at the policy level in regard to underwriting criteria. It's going to it's going to probably take some reduction in mortgage insurance, or change, or maybe some no MI programs, which actually exist with some banks who are trying to help to meet their CRA commitment to making loans to minorities in the areas in which they serve. And so the stats are not good. It really isn't. 41.6% and falling for Blacks, Hispanics 45.2%, Asians 57.8%, and whites 71.1%. That's the homeownership rate for minorities in the United States. So not only is it difficult for minority homeowners to buy a home, but one of the reasons why is because we're just not qualifying for homes. Economists recently confirmed that non-white loan applicants are disproportionately denied home loans based on the most recent HMDA data. Now, this data is so important because it tracks who the banks are making loans to. It tracks their race and ethnicity and whether the loans are approved or denied. And so it's interesting, you'll see that in the most recent report in 2013, 27.6% of African Americans are denied a home loan, 21.9% for Hispanics, and 10.4% for whites. And so this is pretty significant that we are denied at such a high rate. That is a challenge on both sides of the table, on the policy and banking side, and making programs that are affordable, that are flexible, that give African Americans and minorities an opportunity to buy a home. And also, there's some adjustments that need to be made on the other side, where we have to increase our credit scores, we have to save our money, we have to be more financially literate and more fiscally responsible. So if homeownership continues to be the primary means by which African Americans and other minorities build wealth, then we are in for some challenges, because it's not happening. The homeownership rate is falling for African Americans, and it's actually increasing for Hispanics. If you check out the Urban Institute's latest report, it shows that Hispanic homeownership is rising, where African American homeownership is falling. Not only is it falling, but the report says it doesn't really matter what the economy does over the next few years, the rate of homeownership for African Americans will continue to fall. So it's time really to take action and to take personal responsibility, one family at a time, one individual at a time. You have to buy a home, and the Power is Now Wealth Initiative is here to help you do that. Go to neverrentagain.com and become a member of the Buyers and Sellers Club and join the Power is Now Wealth Initiative. The Wealth Initiative has 5 objectives. Number 1, knowledge. We want to give you the information you need to start building wealth now. Number 2, a commitment to financial independence. You have to think about the future. You're not going to always be able to work, and you cannot rely on Social Security. So you need to look at real estate as a way of financial independence. Number 3, investing in real estate. We must prioritize ownership in real property as opposed to personal property. We spend way too much money and buying personal property, things that decay over time, things that depreciate, and not things that appreciate like real property. And then number 4, financial and credit management. We must live on a budget and not abuse credit. Be more fiscally responsible with our money, saving money, and using credit wisely. In fact, good credit is the beginning of building wealth. And then number 5, creating wealth. We must desire to leave a legacy for our family, an inheritance for our children. I believe is that if you're committed to bringing life into this world, children, then you should be committed to also taking care of them, leaving something for them so they can have a better life than perhaps you have been able to carve out for yourself. Give them a leg up, leave them a home, leave them rental property, leave them income that they can add to the income perhaps they're generating from working. Allow them to build a legacy of wealth, a legacy that would change the legacy of your family, perhaps, if you were born in poverty, if you were born without nothing, and you've worked hard, and everything you own today, you own because you made it happen. Then think about your children and what you can leave for them for the future. So I'm excited. Initiative. There is a 10-point wealth building pledge. We want you to go join, take the pledge, folks. Take the pledge and begin first with a change of your mindset about building wealth and about owning real estate. Well, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to get into the wealth gap. I'm excited about this information. It's terrible information. It's actually kind of depressing when you think about it, but I'm excited about it because I believe that knowledge is power. And when you know better, you do better. When you know what's going on, you begin to make changes in your own life so that you too don't become a part of the statistics. So hang in there with us, folks. You're listening to The Power Is Now Buyers and Sellers Club. This is a live webinar, and we'll be right back right after this commercial break. And we're back. For those of you just joining us, welcome to the Power Is Now Buyers and Sellers Club. My name is Eric Frazier. Thank you for registering for this webinar, and I appreciate your time to listen to this incredible information about homeownership. And I promise at the end of it, you will not be disappointed. Please go to thepowerisnow.com and check out our website. I think you'll find a lot of great information to help you in your quest to invest in real estate or to become even a first-time home buyer. Also, please follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. We're also on Active Rain. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We're all over the social media, and we see those as another great platform to share information about buying real estate. So we're going to continue now in this presentation, and I want to make sure that I am live. The video is still working. Okay, I believe it is. I believe it is. So we want to talk about the wealth gap, and this wealth gap is pretty significant information. There's a report that was done in 2013. The report was released in 2013. Let's see here. 1 second here. We're having some technical difficulties. Okay. There was a research study on the wealth gap by Brandeis University Institute of Asset and Social Policy that was released in February of 2013. And the title of the study is The Roots of the Widening Racial Wealth Gap, Explaining the Black and White Economic Divide. It was authored by Thomas Shapiro, Tatiana Mercedes, and Sam Osoro. Now, the data for this analysis was derived from the panel study of income dynamics, a nationally representative longitudinal study that began in 1968. They followed nearly 1,700 working age households from 1984 through 2009. The goal of the study was to examine the effect of policy and institutional decision-making on how average families accumulate wealth. There wasn't a sufficient number of Latinos and Asian Americans or immigrant households at the time to include, but the results can be applied across communities of color. Now, what we learned from this report is that all families need wealth to be economically secure and to create opportunities for the next generation. That's what the Power is Now Wealth Initiative is all about. What is wealth? Well, wealth allows us to really take care of a lot of important things. Number one, it allows us to take care of our families in times of very difficult and I would say adversities that we will experience in our lifetime. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. And so wealth is what we own minus what we owe. And if you don't own anything that appreciates, like real estate, anything of real value, then the chances are you have a negative net worth. That's the chance. They are very high that you have a negative net worth when you add up your debt that you owe on credit cards and car payments and what have you. What you owe minus what you own is probably a negative number. So wealth allows families and individuals to move to safer neighborhoods, to invest in businesses, to invest in their communities, to save for retirement, to send their kids to college, to leave an inheritance and a legacy for their family. Wealth, folks, is the difference. Wealth provides a measure of security when a job loss occurs. I don't know about you, but I've lost a job before. Who hasn't? I don't know anyone who hasn't had a transition in employment, whether through layoffs or even being fired. But not having money in the bank, not having any wealth, can put your entire family on a downward spiral if you haven't built wealth, if you haven't saved money. The Great Recession from 2007 to 2009 devastated the wealth of all families except for those with the most. Did you know, in fact, that the richest 1% of all households own 39% of all wealth? The richest 1% control 39% of all wealth. Wouldn't you want to be part of that number, the 1%ers? In 2009, a representative survey of American households revealed that the median wealth of white families was $113,149. Compare that to Latinos at $6,325, or to African Americans at $5,677. Amazing, isn't it? When you consider that our GDP for African Americans, our gross domestic product, our purchasing power, is $1.3 trillion. That's how much money is circulating in the African American community. That's our purchasing power. For Hispanics is 1.5 trillion. And so you have to ask yourself, why is our net worth so low? I believe the reason is because of consumption and financial literacy. White families, again, 113,000 compared to Latinos and Black families at 6.3 and 5.6 respectively. That's really incredible. I believe the number one reason is because of consumption, and number two is because of consumption, we don't own real estate. We're not buying things of real value. There are other factors which we'll talk about in the wealth report, but consumption is a challenge in the minority community. The Great Recession from 2007 to 2009 brought long-term high unemployment. That is a factor, that is a significant factor in why our net worth is low. High unemployment has existed in the African American community for many, many years. And so having wealth underscores the critical importance that it plays in weathering emergencies, job losses, family emergencies. It provides stability security when we are faced with adversity. So what we've learned through the Great Recession and the challenges that we faced through 2007 and 9, and even other recessionary periods, is that we must save money. We must save money. We cannot live beyond our means. We must establish an emergency fund and plan for the worst case scenario. We must stop long-term financing of vehicles. I can't tell you how many loan applications I see where the car payment is literally robbing that person of being able to buy a home. I wish they could take it back if it wouldn't result in really destroying their credit for a number of years. And so stop financing vehicles. And if you must finance a vehicle, you got to find something very affordable that you can pay off in 1 year. Some people think that financing a vehicle is an excuse or is an opportunity to finance a vehicle that perhaps equals more than what they earn or very close to what they earn, and to put it on a long-term contract. That, again, is robbing you of your purchasing power because it represents debt from being able to buy a home. We must become debt-free. Save your money to buy what you want. Someone told me that a lot of people beg for what they need and pay for what they want. They beg for what they need and they pay for what they want. And so I'm sure you have friends and family members like this who come begging for what they need, but you see them paying for the things that they want, and their priorities are simply not straight. And then number 5, we learned that we must buy real estate before we buy expensive personal property, cars, and things of that nature, expensive clothing. We got to buy a house first. It just makes sense to do that. And so the Wealth Gap Research Report traced 1,700 families over a period of 25 years, from 1984 to 2009, and found that the total wealth gap between whites and African Americans nearly tripled during that period of time. It started off at 85,000 in 1984, and you have to really just look at inflation. At 85,000 in 1984 was still a lot of money. Fast forward to 2009, and it's $236,500. That's nearly tripling, and that's in 2009. Now we know from 2007 to 2009, we had the Great Recession, the Great Financial Crisis, and we know that Hispanics and African Americans were hit the hardest. And so imagine what the wealth gap is now. This is 2016, almost 7 years later actually, to be exact. What do you think the wealth gap is? Well, the report isn't out yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if that number doubled again. The wealth gap, folks, is growing, and we have to stop it from happening by buying real estate. Now, Black and Hispanic homeownership rates in 1994 were 40 and 42% respectively. And we achieved our highest rate of homeownership in 2004 at 50%. Man, those were the good times in 2004. 50% was the rate of homeownership for African Americans. Now, unfortunately, a lot of it had to do with some of the crazy financing that was taking place during that time. Someone has to ask the question, did we really own it? Did we really achieve something? Was it more of an illusion or a facade and not the reality? Because we find ourselves in 2014 at 42.5, Hispanics 43.5, and here we are in 2015, the rate is currently 41.6 and falling. And so in this report, they kind of identify what the factors were that had the greatest impact on this wealth gap. Number 1 was years of home ownership. So this, to me, follows with the ability to make money, the ability to save money, the ability to control our expenses and manage our money correctly so that we can buy real estate. So that's why I believe that our purchasing power, 1.3 for African Americans, 1.5 for Hispanics, We buy what we want and we beg for what we need. We have the money. The money is flowing through our community to buy real estate. And when we got on the bandwagon and started buying and hit that peak of 50% in 2004, what happened? We lost almost all of it. And the ability to hold on to real estate is the key to building wealth. And they cite that as the highest weighted area of impact for the wealth gap and as years of home ownership. Next is household income. Of course, you got to be able to hold on to a job. And when the economy is going through these cycles, African Americans and Hispanics, we are hit the hardest because the majority of us are working in blue collar related type jobs and that are very sensitive to the economy. And so being able to hold on to our jobs is very important. Household income is just number 2, and unemployment is number 3. And then there are other factors: college education, inheritance, pre-existing family wealth, that's leaving a legacy. All those are factors as well. And then the labor market instability is really perhaps the most significant factor in the wealth gap by a weight and by between African Americans and Caucasians. And so we see that we have to do something, folks. Homeownership can make the difference. It really can, from improving your life and where you live to providing college education for your children, to creating wealth and equity for investments, for creating stability for your family, and more importantly, for retiring with dignity and not in poverty. I was looking at some statistics today, and they'll be available for those who are members of the Buyers and Sellers Club under resources. You'll be surprised of how many African Americans 65 years and older are living below the poverty line today. The most recent data for 2015, it is almost 30%, 27.5% of African Americans 65 years or older are living below the poverty line. Imagine that, folks. This is the most recent census data. And I have to tell you that if you don't want to be in poverty, if you don't want to be scratching out an existence when you retire, you need to buy real estate, and you need to buy it now. It's not going to get any less expensive as you get older. It will be more expensive, and you'll have even less money to buy it. So you're not building wealth if you use all of your money for consumption, buying personal property as opposed to real property. 53% of the wealth of African Americans currently is in real estate. 53%. That's our chosen area to build wealth. We're not in stocks and bonds. We're not in oil and gas. We're not day traders. We're not speculators. Heck, we're not even in business as a percentage. There's a significant number of Hispanics and Asians and Caucasians, far greater, who are in even business than we are as African Americans. It's real estate where we take our stand and make an effort to build wealth. 35%, actually 39% for Hispanics, they choose real estate to build wealth. So financial independence can be the result of using your earnings to purchase real estate and other assets over time. Real estate can generate income and equity that can replace your earnings over time, and it can be sold for cash for retirement, or the income can be used for retirement. Building wealth through real estate, it's truly the only way to go. We're going to take another break here and play another one of these great Powers Now commercials. And I tell you, if you are interested in building wealth, you need to work with a real estate professional. And we are aligned with many real estate professionals. We call them VIP agents on The Power Is Now. We'll be right back, right after And we're back. For those of you just joining us, welcome to the Power is Now Buyers and Sellers Club. We have been talking about building wealth through real estate. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the Power is Now. I want to encourage you to go to our website, thepowerisnow.com. Also, become a member of the Buyers and Sellers Club. It's absolutely free. Great information, great resources that I know you could use if you're interested in becoming a homeowner. There are many people who are interested in becoming homeowners, but there are not very many people who are interested in actually doing something about it. Unfortunately, the homeownership rate for our younger people, the millennials, are not really that concerned about buying real estate right now. And we hope that the powers now can change their thinking, and they too can get on the bandwagon and start buying real estate. So let us continue with our PowerPoint presentation. I am going to be going into now real estate and inflation. If you've been kind of thinking about the fact that you don't need to buy real estate, or maybe you'll do it later, I have some bad news for you. Real estate is getting more and more expensive every single day. And the time is now to buy. It really is. So I'm having some technical difficulty navigating the slide. Please stand by for one moment. Okay, here we go. So real estate and inflation. Inflation robs us of our purchasing power. It cannot be stopped. It's like gravity, right? There's no way to fly unless you're a bird. Gravity will hold you down every single time. In 1980, if you bought a house for 100,000, based on the average inflation of 3.06, by the way, I took that from the inflation calculator. You can go, if you have a financial calculator, you can find this number, 3.06. All right, so that's the average inflation rate over the last 30 years. What would your home be worth in 1980 if you bought it for $100,000? Well, check this out, $287,300.96 to be exact. Incredible. So inflation isn't your friend or your enemy. It is absolutely your enemy, but it can be your friend if you own real estate. I want inflation to be my friend. Let's say in 2015, you bought this house that someone else owned and sold, owned in 1980 and sold. You were the buyer. You paid $287,300 for that house, and that's assumed that the rate of inflation, 3.06, will remain the same over the next 30 years, so 2045, all right? What do you think that house for $287,300 would be worth? Well, how about $825,415.66? Now, that's an incredible number, all the way from $245 to $825,000. Are you kidding me? Well, that's the reality of inflation. Inflation can be your friend or it can be your enemy. It is absolutely your enemy if you are renting, but it is your friend if you own. Inflation robs us of our purchasing power, and it will not be stopped. It will not be denied. In 2015, if you lived in Palo Alto, California, I saw this beautiful house last year in Palo Alto, California. And folks, it was a condominium, by the way, $712,000. That was the purchase price in 2015. And guess what? It sold above list price. Well, assume this person who bought this home, they paid more than $712. Let's say they hold on to it for the next 10 years at the rate of 3% even. We're just going to break it down to 3.0 inflation over the next 10 years. No one really knows what it's going to be, but we can look in the past and see what inflation was. And of course, past history is not a guarantee of what might happen in the future, but we all know that the economy is kind of cyclical. What goes around comes around. All right, the old becomes new and the new becomes old. And the same thing, it works in fashion and it also works in economics. And so look at this, 712,000, 10 years at the average rate of 3%, what do we have? $956,000 $868. That's what you're looking at 10 years from now, just at 3% inflation. Again, is it your friend or enemy? Well, I think we know with the answer to that. Not only in real estate, inflation becomes your enemy. 3.06 appreciation is what the average inflation rate has been. Actually, that's what the average inflation rate has been over the last 30 years. We're basing this just on 3% appreciation. But is that true? Is real estate only appreciating at 3%? Well, I think you might find it's not the case. Excuse me. You may not find this the case in many markets, especially those of you who are living in Northern California and some areas in Southern California. I think you'll agree that that might be the inflation rate over the last 30 years, but it certainly isn't the appreciation rate of real estate. For example, I live in Riverside, beautiful Riverside, California. The median sales price is $330. The average list price, this was as of December 2015, by the way, was $404. And so we're looking at year-over-year appreciation of 8.2% in Riverside, California. We expect for that to be the same in 2016. San Bernardino is one of the areas where you can find a lot of affordability. You may recall the terrorist attack that took place there last year, very sad event. But the median sales price for homes at $220,000 in San Bernardino. The median list price is $249,000. So between list price and actual sales price, it's pretty close. But look at the year-over-year appreciation. It's 14.4%. And why is that? It's because of affordability. And you know, where you have, it's basic economics, folks. Where you have low prices, right? You're going to have more demand. If you lower the price, demand increases. And well, what's adding to this is that there's low inventory. So you have low prices, low inventory, that really steps up the demand. And we're seeing this kind of year-over-year appreciation at 14%. And it's going to be probably the same or better or higher in 2016. Another area is Rancho Cucamonga in Southern California. Median price $430, average list price $514,000, year-over-year appreciation 10.3%. 10.3. There's another great area down here in Southern California, Upland, California. The median price is median sales price $430, average list price $544. It's a very attractive area. A lot of people are going there. Look at the year-over-year appreciation, 7.3% appreciation. Los Angeles, City of Angels. The median sales price $630,000, average list price $1.1 million. $1.1 million. The median sales price $630,000, the list price $1.1 million. The sellers are trying to get all they can get from you buyers, and people are paying it. Year-over-year appreciation is 7%. Year-over-year appreciation. Orange County, beautiful coastline of Orange County, median price $630, list price $729, year-over-year appreciation 6%. What about San Diego? I love San Diego, great place to vacation. Love the weather. Median sales price $465,000. Folks, San Diego is a deal. In fact, it's a steal. If you can buy a house in that price range, the list price is $668 in San Diego, sales price $465. And then look at the year-over-year appreciation, 1.8%. You know, I almost questioned that number. This is from Trulia, but that's what it is, year-over-year, 1.8% appreciation. I say that's a buying opportunity if you can find a home in the area. Alameda, California. Let's go to Northern California. Alameda, California, $780,000, and the average list price is $873,000. They're selling for $780,000, but they're listing at $873,000. Look at the year-over-year appreciation, 13%, 13.9%, folks. Pretty amazing, isn't it? 13.9% appreciation. I'm amazed at that, and I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. When we look at these areas like San Bernardino, And then you go to Northern California and you see areas like this. It's amazing that property values are going up at this rate. And I know you're asking yourself the question, who can afford these prices? Who can't afford it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but people are paying it, folks. They are paying it. 13.9% in Alameda, California. And I believe that it's going to continue. I believe it's going to continue. And if we don't do something about it, if you don't start getting in now, then you may not be able to get in at all. Now, I'm having some technical difficulty with the presentation. Please stand by. Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties with the slide presentation. Please stand by. Okay. Technology, folks, you can't live with it, can't live without it. I tell you. So let me restart the presentation and see if we can get this back on track. Let's see here. We are live. Okay. Okay. All right, we're back on track. So we were at Alameda. Now we're going to Sacramento, California. Notice that the medium sales price of Sacramento was 247,500, and the list price is very close, 297. The year-over-year appreciation is 10%. 10% is a year-over-year appreciation. San Francisco, 1.1 million. The average list price 1.4, year-over-year appreciation 10.5%. And then we go to San Mateo, 956,000, average list price 1.1 million, year-over-year appreciation 2.8%. And then San Jose, 730,000, average list price 753, not too far apart. But the year-over-year appreciation in San Jose is 12.2%. So 12.2% in San Jose. And then we have Saint Marin, Tiburon County. 900 and let's see here, the list price is 2 million, 3 million, 3.5 million. The average medium sales price is 2.8 million. And the year-over-year appreciation is 50.3%. Imagine that. 50% appreciation in Tiburon. Well, that's the state of California. They call it the Golden State for a reason. Property values just continue to rise. And folks, as you can see that appreciation and inflation are two completely different things. This is the NOMIA chart, and it tracks the inflation across all the major economies in the United States and other economies. And they're predicting in the United States our inflation to stay around the 1.8 to 2.4% range. And that takes everything into consideration, just not just real estate, but everything. And so if inflation is currently around 1.1, 1.2% currently, and we've seen this type of appreciation in real estate, isn't it, shouldn't it be a motivating factor for us to get in and buy now? Because as inflation goes, so does real estate, but just at a much higher rate. Here's an inflation calculator, at which, by the way, you can determine what the average rate of inflation has been over a period of years or through a period of set times. In 1962, the year I was born, if you had $50,000 in 2015, if you held on to that, or if it was an asset of some type, the same item would cost or be worth $392,000. Imagine that. The cumulative rate of inflation is 685.9%. That's the cumulative rate of inflation. In 2005, 200,000. In 2015 would be 243. So obviously during that period, it's tracking the average rate of inflation. So the cumulative rate of inflation was 21.5% between 2005 and 2015. So a lot of things happened during that time, and so we see why inflation is what it is. In addition to property values increasing, rents are also increasing, and that is really going to be one of the factors that leads many people who don't own a home today to potential homelessness. There was a study done by the rental market, Rent.com, which is an organization that conducts this study once a year. Rent.com is a free rental site. It's not an endorsement of Rent.com, but you can go there and find a property to rent. What they've done is a survey. They do a survey every year. You can find it at rent.com/blog/215-rental-market-report and /. This is a great report, folks, especially for those of you who are renting. If you want to get some motivation, find out what's happening. This is the 7th annual rental.com report, the 7th annual report. And they have surveyed in 2015 more than 500 property managers in the United States, representing thousands of rental properties and hundreds of thousands of rental units, to provide an insight on the current and predicted demand for rentals, expected rental rate increases, and how property managers are working to retain residents, and the changing demographic profile of American renters. This is a fascinating survey. Here we go. 46% of property managers surveyed reported a rental vacancy, a decrease in rental vacancies. It's the lowest vacancy rate in almost 20 years, folks. Can you imagine? The lowest vacancy rate in 20 years. And why is that? Well, a lot of it has to do to the fact that people can't afford to buy right now. They can't afford to, they've been priced out. And so they're going to be renting probably for the rest of their lives. 64% of property managers reported that they are not doing anything different from 1 year ago in order to fill vacancies. There's no specials going on. They're not going to move you in for free. There's nothing like that happening, folks, at all. If you are renting, they're probably going to raise your rent, and if you're not willing to pay more, just find somebody else. They're not doing anything special to keep you. 53% of property managers said that they were more likely to bring in a new tenant at a higher rate than to negotiate and renew a lease with a current tenant that they already know. Why? It's because they want to get more money. 88% of property managers raised their rent. 88% raised their rent in the last 12 months and there does not appear to be any sign of this stopping. 68% of property managers predict that rental rates will continue to rise in the next year by an average of 8%. 43% of property managers reported seeing an increase in the number of applicants who do not meet the income requirements on their own and they require a guarantor. Check that out. 43% can't qualify. You know, it's kind of bad enough that you may not be able to qualify to buy a home. But then to get to the point where you can't qualify to even rent an apartment, to me, that is another reason why you need to try now to get into something that you can own and control your future housing expense. That's what I love about a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. You know exactly what you're going to be paying over the next 30 years. And if you double it, if you pay more, eventually you won't have any rent to pay at all. You won't have any mortgage payment to pay at all. I tell you, so many values, so many benefits of buying a home. 45% of property managers notice an increase in the number of millennial renters. And this is all in the news about these millennials, right? They don't want to own real estate. They want to be fancy free and look into their iPhones all day and walk around the street and do that urban living and, you know, eat at a different restaurant every night and not be attached to anything, not own anything that's going to weigh them down. And so they're renting apartments and they're renting them in the thousands. And I'm not sure when this trend is going to stop. Maybe when they get married, start having kids, or maybe when the rent eventually outpaces their income. You know, perhaps they do make a lot of money. The millennials are doing very well, but eventually rent will catch up with them and they'll get the message. They'll get the memo that it's time to buy. 54% of property managers reported seeing an increase in the number of former homeowners seeking rental apartments, thus adding to the already crowded rental space. Now, these former homeowners could be people who have lost their homes. These could be people who are retired and just too old. They don't want the hassle of even dealing with homeownership at all. Maybe they'll move in with their kids, help take care of the grandbabies. Maybe they'll rent an apartment and travel and just stay a place every year. They've saved their money. They can afford to do that. There could be a number of reasons why. Some could be because they just simply don't make enough money to afford the rising cost of utilities and water and maintenance of the home, and they don't want to rent again. There's some who have lost their jobs and can't afford the house, and so if they rented out the house, which is by the way, another great benefit of owning the place you live in. Because if you lose your job or you have a major health crisis, you don't have to lose the house. Rent the doggone thing out and use that income to rent an apartment or to do something else. That's the power of wealth in owning real estate, to be able to leverage that asset, especially in times of crisis. 34% of property managers reported that renters are holding on tight to their apartment. They're afraid to try to move and get something better. Maybe they don't qualify, or some are even afraid to try to buy a house because once they give notice, they know the landlord will probably rent it out right away. So, geez, I want to make sure that my home loan goes through before I put myself out there. Which, by the way, on a side note, folks, if you're buying a house and you're renting an apartment, you know, honestly, if you can't afford to pay another month's worth of rent while you have waiting to buy the home, while the loan is closed, and you're going to have a payment now in about 60 days from the time you close, you'll have your first house payment is in 60 days. Don't try the time moving out of your apartment with the close of the house. Nobody needs that kind of stress or pressure, especially the wife or the kids if you're married. You know, just don't give notice. Wait till the house is closed, recorded, and the agent has handed you the keys. Then give notice to the landlord that you're ready to move. All right? That's how you're supposed to handle it. And if your budget is so tight that you can't afford to do that, then perhaps you should wait a little longer before you get started with buying a home. Buying a home should not be a stressful situation. It should not be. You need to prepare yourself for home ownership. So that's for free. A little side note on buying a home if you're renting and afraid to give notice. So what is the plight of renters? Uh, it's really it's really a sad situation because increasing rents are going to ultimately lead to homelessness if you don't lock in your housing expense. And the only way to do that is not to rent, but to own. Now, to make matters worse, not only do you have your rents increasing and you have the property values of the homes that you could buy right now are increasing, but mortgage interest rates are increasing. Uh, Folks, we have experienced an unprecedented time of low interest rates. Unprecedented. Interest rates in the low threes. We got down to 3.25, folks. 3.25. Unbelievable. And now they're moving up. And this is a history of interest rates. In 2014, rates averaged around 4.75. In 2015, the average is going to be around the high threes. In 2013, it was in the high threes. In 2012, in the high threes. 2011 was 4.45%. 2010, 4.69. In 2009, it was in the fives, and that's really what we consider to be normal. In fact, 2009, 2008, it was 6. 2007, it was 6. 2006, it was 6. Really, 6 to 5% was normal. I mean, rates ranged that level all the way to about 2001, where it was almost 6.97%. And then you get into 2000, from 1996 to 2000, we saw rates 8% and mid sevens and the high sevens. 8% was not uncommon in 2009 if you were buying a home. And then from 1991 to 1995, we saw the 8 and 9% range. And then from 1986 to 1990, we saw the double-digit interest rate, 10%, 11% interest rate, folks. I mean, pretty amazing. Imagine trying to buy a home. I can tell you right now, I have a pipeline full of buyers right now who've been pre-approved at 3.75, 4.5%. I can tell you right now because I know their income, their debts, I know their debt ratio. I would lose my entire pipeline. I would lose my entire pipeline of loans, 100%, if rates went to 10%. I don't have a single client in my pipeline right now that could qualify. And I specialize in working with first-time home buyers. Let me tell you this, I probably would lose over half of my pipeline if rates went where they are right now in the high threes, low fours. If they went to 5 to 5.5%, I would probably lose over half, maybe 3/4 of my pipeline. And so if you don't think that interest rate risk is real, just keep reading and you'll see, history isn't, past results. Our history isn't a guarantee that these rates will come back, but it's highly likely given the fact we've experienced now almost, 8 years of unprecedented, almost 10 years of unprecedented low interest rates. And the party is coming to an end. By the way, in the 1981, 30-year fixed rate money was 16.3%. In 1976, from 1980s to 1976, it was in the 8 to 13% range. If you go further back, you'll even find interest rates in the high 18% range. Folks, you need to buy now or pay more later. And that's going to take making more money if you're going to wait later. And you have to wonder, will your wages keep pace with inflation, with the cost of housing? It's highly unlikely that it will. So buy now or pay more in interest later. Well, folks, We're going to take our last break before we go into the Sapphire program. And I want to play our last and final commercial before the break. This Sapphire program is really a great program, and we're going to be going into the details. So for those of you who are listening right now, we appreciate you hanging in with us. We'll be right back in just a few minutes, right after this commercial break. And we're back. For those of you just joining us, welcome again to The Power Is Now, Buyers and Sellers Club. And we've been talking about a lot, folks. I know this is probably information overload. And so if you're listening to the recorded video, pause it and grab something to drink, get your pen and paper out, take some notes, because this is really good information. And hopefully it's been information that has inspired you to take action. I know you can. You can do it. It's so important, folks, that we get into homeownership. In fact, I just want to spend a moment. For me and my family, homeownership has made all the difference in the world. And I want to encourage you. My wife and I got married at 19 years of age. And we have been homeowners ever since, I think, around the age of 22. Buying a home is not difficult, especially when there are programs that are out there to help you, to give you a leg up. And those programs exist. And one that I'm really excited about is the Buyers and Sellers Club, folks. It is a fantastic program, and I'm going to get into it right now. The Buyers and Sellers Club, the Sapphire program, a featured product on the Buyers and Sellers Club. So not having the money for the down payment is really no longer an excuse. It really isn't, folks. You can do it. The money is available. The Sapphire program is a program of the National Homebuyers Fund, a nonprofit benefit corporation that was established in 2002. It is an IRS Code Section 115 entity and is an affiliate of Rural County Representatives of California. NHF provides and manages a variety of homeownership programs on behalf of itself, the state of California, and local housing finance agencies and other housing-related organizations. It is not a direct lender. It doesn't provide or accept loan applications from potential borrowers. You have to be a participating lender, and the participating lenders, they provide all the details, like me. The Power Is Now is approved with many lenders that offer the program for first-time home buyers. And the Sapphire program is just one of many programs that we are offering on The Power Is Now. So the purpose of the program is to promote financing for families and individuals who can afford the mortgage but don't have the resources for the down payment. And I come across people like that all the time, folks, who have the money for the income, that is, they make the money, and they even have the credit, but they don't have the savings. It's tough to save, especially when you have a family. And so what the Sapphire program provides is financing on FHA, VA, USDA programs designed to increase homeownership opportunities to low to moderate income individuals and families. And so we need the down payment program called Sapphire because county and city down payment assistance programs, I believe, are inferior in a number of ways. They are inferior to this program, and they have limited funds, and they require a whole lot to get the money. and there's a waiting period for many cases, and a lot of them are out of money. And so there are cities and counties that have funds available, and go to their first-time homebuyer class and do all the necessary paperwork and meet the qualifications, and you may be able to get some help with these organizations, with these counties and cities. But in most cases, the money that they'll provide you is a loan. It's not free money. So that's one of the challenges that I have with many of these programs, especially when you compare it to something like the Sapphire program. In addition, they have too many restrictions on what you can do with the property, and how long you have to live in the property, and all kinds of rules. You need to read the fine print. The devil is clearly in the details. Loan programs in general have more restrictive guidelines. For example, they have higher FICO score requirements and lower debt ratio requirements than the Sapphire program. So something to think about it. So we need the Sapphire program now because inventory is low and prices are higher. People need help. It's a seller's market, and sellers aren't contributing to the buyer's closing costs in some markets. In some markets they are. You need a really good agent, and I know them. So if you need a great agent to help you negotiate closing costs, then the Sapphire program will help you get in with no money down. And perhaps you've saved the money already for the down payment, and you need help with the closing costs because you can't get any help with the seller. Then the Sapphire program is your rescue. It can give you the money for the closing costs. You bring in the down payment. Whatever the situation is, the Sapphire program is really needed in this economy right now, particularly for first-time home buyers who need that leg up to buy a home. So let's get into the highlights. This program is a first mortgage program. It's an FHA loan, it's a USDA loan, or it's a VA loan. All right, it has to be a government program, cannot be a conventional loan. It doesn't exist for conventional financing. So let's get that out of the way. This is for government financing only. 3% or 5% payment, down payment assistance grant. It is a grant. You can get a 3% grant or you can get a 5% grant. My recommendation is to go for the money. Go for the 5% grant. Then I have an illustration that will show you why. The grant proceeds can be used for the down payment, and the seller can pay up to 6% of the closing costs. And that's, think about that for a moment. We give you the down payment, and we find a great seller or a great agent that can convince a great seller to help you with the closing costs. Folks, you can buy a home with no money at all. The closing costs can be part of the program, and that if you have the down payment already, again, we can use these proceeds to cover your closing costs. It can take care of prepaid items. It can take care, some of your prepaid items are your appraisal fee and your home inspection and some other things that you'll be out of pocket when going through that initial process of buying a home. You need to make sure that the home is what you want, and so it has to be appraised, and you need to have inspections done. And those things, the seller is not going to pay for up front. You've got to pay for them up front to make sure this is a home you want to buy. So those, we call those outside of escrow expenses, appraisal and inspection fees. So here's some examples, and this is based on real life numbers, folks. Real life numbers. You can afford to pay, buy a home. You can't afford not to buy a home. I really believe that. And if you can afford to pay your landlord's mortgage payment, which by the way is your rent, there's no such thing as paying rent. Everybody pays a mortgage. The question is, you have to ask, whose mortgage are you paying? Now, here's an example. FHA loan, 3.5% down. That's the minimum contribution on a standard FHA loan. And so for those of you who may not qualify for this program, I highly recommend FHA. It is a great way to get into a home with a low down payment. Not only can you get into a home, but did you know on an FHA loan, you can actually buy a 4-unit building? You can actually buy a 4-unit property. You live in one unit and you rent out the other three. Imagine that now, going from paying rent to actually getting paid rent and not having a mortgage payment at all. You can do that with this loan. And so I want you to imagine this loan, FHA, as a single family home or even as a 4-unit building. And so if it's a 4-unit building, maybe the price, depending on where you live, is $450,000, or maybe it's $700,000. Doesn't matter. All you got to come up with is 3.5% and live in the property. All right? Whether it be a 4-unit property, 3-unit property, 2-unit property, or 1-unit property, you have to live in it. You have to live in it, and all you need for the down payment is 3.5%. So for those of you who've been saving your money, this product alone may be enough. This is worth the price of admission tonight. The fact that you can actually get into a home with only 3.5% down, because you have, in this case of $350,000, you have the $12,250. You've saved the money. Or maybe you got it as a gift. On this program, you can get a gift from your relatives. You can. A mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, they can give you the money. You can get a gift from a nonprofit organization, like we're going to talk about. You can get a gift from a church. I encourage churches. I'm working with some churches now, trying to encourage them to move forward with a legitimate homeownership program, create a down payment assistance program. They have a building fund, which is all the money's going into that, are designed to help them buy a building. Why not create a fund to help members buy a church? Novel idea, right? I tell you, some of you have been going to that same church for 30 years, and I'm not sure if outside of saving your soul and giving you a great spiritual life, if they've been able to help you to buy a home, which is the American dream, by the way, and perhaps the greatest investment and the largest asset that anyone could ever own. But that's another discussion. $12,250 is a down payment. And now the one thing about mortgage insurance, you've got 1.75% mortgage insurance. Anytime you're putting less than 20% down, you got to pay mortgage insurance. And for FHA, they will finance it, which is great. 1.75%, they will finance it. They add that $4,475 to your loan amount. And so now we have a loan amount of $342,225.18. And you happen to be working with a great real estate agent, a VIP agent on the Power Is Now. And they were able to negotiate a credit of $14,500. I have a client right now, the seller gave them $10,000 credit, a $10,000 credit on a home. All right. So don't tell me it's not possible for you skeptic real estate agents. In fact, every deal I have right now, every deal, real deal in the pipeline, I have seller credit. So it can be done. I just need to sharpen up your negotiation skills. Now, the interest rate is 4.125. In this example, and the APR is 4.634%. That's the APR. And what is the APR? That takes into consideration your cost in the form of interest rate. And so your note rate, the rate the payment is based on, and the interest is 4.125. But when you add all the costs associated with the loan, and not necessarily all the costs, not all costs are part of the APR. Primarily the costs from the lender fees, points and interest, those things make up the APR. And so you go from a note rate or interest rate of 4.125 to an APR of 4.634. So what's your payment on this $350,000 house? Well, principal and interest, $1,658, taxes, $346, hazard insurance, $102, mortgage insurance, $181.14. Now, I know, I thought, Eric, you said the mortgage insurance is included in the loan amount. Yes, it is. That's the upfront premium that's included in the mortgage insurance. All right. In addition, you have an annual premium of 8.85% per year, and that is $185. Now, by the way, mortgage insurance covers the lender. It's not like fire insurance or life insurance that covers you. Fire insurance will, your house burns down, they'll rebuild it. Well, on mortgage insurance, if you don't pay, then the lender has about 25%, 25 to 30% coverage over your mortgage. So if you borrowed 100,000, 25,000 to 30,000 of that is going to be covered by the insurance fund, so that the lender then only has to raise, save, pay off, sell the property, and get about 70,000. That's what they need to cover their, of course they have other expenses associated with, but the whole idea here is to encourage lenders to lend. And so this adds some protection for lenders, so they can lend to people who have limited income, who don't have the money to put 20 or 25% down. Mortgage insurance is the best thing that's ever happened, really, for people, for low to moderate income people, for people who aren't able to save 20% down, 10% down, 30% down, or pay cash for a mortgage. Not everybody is able, right? And so this protects the lender in case you don't pay, and it covers their losses, so they'll continue to lend to others in spite of what you may have done to help them get into home ownership with very little money down, 3.5%. And so the mortgage payment is $2,300. Add in an association dues of $300. And I added that in for those of you who perhaps are living in areas where $350,000 will not get you a house, only a condominium, maybe a one-bedroom at that. So I get it. Now, if you're buying a condo, the house has to be FHA approved. The condominium project has to be FHA approved, and your realtor will look into that first before they even consider making an offer on the property. So now, let's look at the other costs associated with this loan. You have your lender fees. In this case, there are no origination fees. Now, the reality is that there are origination fees. There are origination fees that are buyer paid, and there's origination fees that are lender paid. Most origination fees are lender paid, meaning that they're built into the interest rate. They're built into the interest rate. So anytime you read a newspaper and you see an interest rate, 9 times out of 10, the origination fee, which is the money the lender makes, it's the money the broker makes, it's the money the loan officer makes sitting in the bank, a percentage of that. It's the money they make, all right, in addition to other fees, some money they make. Those fees are sometimes included in the interest rate. So in this particular case, 4.15% or 4.125%, the origination fees are 0 because it's built into the interest rate. Now, by the way, when I created this presentation, rates were around 4.25. Now they're 3.75. So you can get this rate. You can get a much lower rate right now if you're coming in with your own money. 3.5% down. You're coming in with your own money or gift from another source other than the Sapphire program. We can get you a much better rate, and that's would be at no points. At no point. So it's built to, again, the origination fees are built into the interest rate. And so we're looking at fees of about $1,895. There's a processing fee, an underwriting fee. Then you have your appraisal fee, pest inspection fees, your credit report fees. These are what we call out-of-pocket costs. That's about $896 that you would have out of pocket. So, and this is a great opportunity to bring this up, folks. If you want to buy a home, you do need to have some money. Even though tonight we're talking about the Sapphire program that may not require you to have any money to own a home, ultimately, you may be able to buy a home with very little to no money down. To get started in the process, you need to have some money. You have to have, number one, money to pay for the appraisal and pest inspection, as well as the credit report fees. You got to have money to actually put a deposit, an earnest money deposit. And that earnest money deposit could be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. It depends on what the seller wants and what your agent can negotiate. So you have to have some money. So our total loan fees are $2,791. And then we get into third-party fees. And of course, you have the right to do your research, check out the title companies, the escrow companies, see what their fees are. You can shop for your own title and escrow fees. You can do that. The lender is always going to make recommendations, but you can shop on your own. So these are just estimates of what the fees would be. Total all fees, $3,630. for your title and escrow fees. And then you have your transfer and recorder fees. Sometimes these fees can be paid by the seller. And by the way, what was that? That's about a couple $100, $290. And then you have your prepaid items. This is for prepaid or interim interest. Typically, when a loan closes, for example, we're the 1st of March. And so if we were to close a loan tomorrow, we're going to collect in the loan almost 30 days, not 15 days as this example shows, but almost 30 days of interest. We're going to finance that into the loan. Actually, not necessarily being financed. The borrower will have to bring in those funds. So 30 days we're going to include, so that when the first payment, which by the way, which would be in May, when they make that first payment, it will be for the interest collected in April, because we've collected in the loan. We call that interim interest. We've collected in the loan the interest for the current month in which the loan is funded. Then you have taxes and insurance. And you usually have to pay your insurance 12 months in advance, and you have to pay approximately 6 months of taxes. Excuse me. Now we have escrow reserves. And when you're putting less than 20% down, you're not allowed to pay your own taxes and insurance. They build it into the mortgage payment. And so they'll set up an escrow account, and you'll fund that account with your proceeds. So 6 months, approximately 3 to 6 months. As we get later into the year, it gets higher. It can be as high as 9 months. Hazard insurance, 2 months. And these are reserves that are set aside, $2,391.67, folks, set aside to establish your impound account. That's how you have a payment that includes taxes and insurance. So here's a summary of the closing. We need a down payment of $12,250. That's the 3.5%. We have loan fees of $2,791, title fees of $3,630. We have transfer recording fees, prepaid items, $4,775. We have escrow reserves. It's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money that we need to come in and close. It's almost, what is it, $31,261. $31,261 is what you need to close. Now, the seller is giving you a credit of $14,000. So that's making a big difference. Then you have on deposit about $2,000. That's what you put with your contract when you made the offer and it was accepted. And of course, you're out of pocket already $896. And so the adjusted funds due, $13,865. What I love about this illustration is that the seller credit in this case is making a big difference. You can get it, folks. Just work with a great agent, and they can help you get some credit from the seller, even in a seller's market. So adjusted funds due, $13,865. That's what you need to bring in to close to escrow. Without the seller credit, you would need to be bringing in about $28,000 to escrow, and then they would close and you would own the home. So what can we do with the Sapphire program? How can the Sapphire program make a difference on this program? Well, first of all, the difference is $17,110 that they're going to give you. That's right. This is free money. You're going to get a grant of $17,110. Here's how it works. So it's the same loan amount, $350,000, same down payment, mortgage insurance, same thing. We have a seller credit, same seller credit, right? But we got a higher interest rate, 4.5%. That's what the rate is right now, 4.5%. The APR is 5.035%. All right? That's the rate right now, getting a 5% grant on the Sapphire program, 4.5%. Now, the payment on that is a little higher than the other example by a few dollars. $1,733 is the principal and interest payment. Adding taxes and insurance and mortgage insurance, we're at $2,381. And then if you're buying a condo, you got a 300 HOA, you're looking at $2,681. And net, there's a difference of about $75 a month between the Sapphire program at $350 and a regular FHA loan at $350. $75 difference in payment. The loan fees, well, in this case, the origination fee is borrower paid. And the reason why it's borrower paid is because the purpose of the program is to give you the down payment of 3.5% and to cover the lender's cost or the broker's cost, 1.5%. Nothing's free. Lenders have to be paid. Everybody has to be paid for the work that they do. And so the origination fee is 1.5%. That's $5,133. If you buy a standard FHA loan and you can come up with your own money for the down payment, now we can build that origination fee in the interest rate. It's a lower rate, a different situation. You get your processing fee, your underwriting fee, and a grant fee. There's a fee for the grant of $300. So your total fee is $7,328. You have your appraisal, pest inspection, credit report fees, your same out-of-pocket expenses of $895. And so you're looking at total fees of $8,224. Now you have your title fees. They're going to run about the same, $3,630. Your transfer recorder fees about the same. Your prepaids are about the same, $4,827 for prepaid. And then you got to set up impounds just like you do in a standard FHA. And you're going to need about $2,391 for impounds. And so what do we need? The total funds we need are $31,000. You need your same down payment of 3.5% being covered by NHF. You have your same loan fees. Part of those loan fees are the 1.5% lender paid that's being covered by NHF. And then you got your title, transfer, prepaids, escrow, $31,613, about the same as the other loan. Now we add in our grant of $17,000. We add in we have $2,000 on deposit when we made the offer. We're financing the mortgage insurance, and we have the seller credit of $14,500. So this amount that we're actually left with, when you take into consideration the grant, the seller credit, all the buyer needs to bring in is $3.56. Well, he really doesn't need to bring that in because he's got his $2,000 credit on deposit, and he's already paid his $8,896 out-of-pocket expenses. And so when you subtract his out-of-pocket expenses, what he paid for the appraisal and everything, he's going to get back. He's going to get back $1,100. I mean, that's amazing, folks. He's going to get back $1,100. So what is his real cost? What he paid out of pocket for the appraisal, credit report, and inspections. That's his real cost in buying this home. Incredible. The Sapphire program, folks, makes all the difference in the world. $17,110 for what? For just meeting some very easy guidelines. And I'm going to share those guidelines with you in just a minute, show you what it takes to be able to buy a home. So here we go. The power of inflation. That house for $350,000 in 10 years, depending on inflation, could be worth as high as $688,000 with equity of almost $338,000. As low as $470,000 with equity of $120,000. That's what you'll have over 10 years. And imagine that, over 10 years, folks, what you could save just by buying a home. And so buying a home today, using FHA with its low down payment and the grant with the Sapphire program will make the difference. You can get a low payment today, or you can have a high payment tomorrow if you wait, because rates will go up. And what if rates went to 5.5%? That payment of $2,300 now would be almost $3,000 a month, $3,200 a month. 5.75% or 6.75%, your payment would be as high as $3,200 a month. So we've got to do something. At 4.125% on an FHA loan where you're not getting the grant, your payment is $2,600, $2,606. If you're getting the grant, the payment is $26.81, just a few dollars more. If you wait, the grant interest rate could go up. At 5.75, it could go as high as 6.75. You never know what could happen. Interest rates could just dramatically affect your ability to qualify. So here are the program income and loan limits. Number one, it's 115% of the HUD AMI. 115% of the HUD AMI. And so for Riverside County, that's 80,155. For Orange County, it's 98,000. LA County, 80,155. San Diego County, 83,950. Going to Northern California, 117,000 for San Francisco, 122,000 for Santa Clara, Contra Costa, 106,835. So if you're interested in knowing what your particular income limit is, please see me. We have a list of every county, and you can go to HUD.gov and you can look up the county limits, or you can go to our website, thepowersnow.com, and look at the Buyers and Sellers Club under the radio and see the same PowerPoint presentation and look up your limit for your area. The loan limit is lower in certain counties than it is in others. For example, for Riverside County, the loan limit is $335,000, whereas in Orange County, it can be as high as $417,000. Now, the HUD loan limit can go as high as $625,500, but on the Sapphire program, the maximum loan amount is $417,000, or the loan limit, whichever is lower. That is the maximum loan limit. So please be aware of that. The program qualified income. So you've got to be on the job for a couple of years in order to qualify for this program. If you've had changes in employment, as long as it's in the same line of work, you're going to be okay. If you have what we call passive income, then we got to be able to show that it's going to continue for the next 3 years. So this would be interest income or alimony or child support. You got to be able to show that this income is going to continue for the next 3 years. If you're getting overtime or bonus income, then we got to have a 2-year history, and we verify that through a verification of employment and your tax returns. They need to make sure that you have a history of receiving income, a bonus income, or overtime income, or we cannot use it. Now, eligibility. In order to be eligible for this program, you have to be a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident alien, or qualified alien. You have to be an owner-occupied resident, so you can't be, you can't use this as an investment loan. You know, you've got to occupy this property. It is an absolute requirement. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer, though, and that's good, because if you lost a home before, or maybe if you own a home now, you want to buy a nicer home, you can use this program to do that. If your existing loan, though, is an FHA loan, then having 2 FHA loans could be a problem. So we need to take a look at your situation and see what we need to do to help you get into this program. There is a way to do it. Non-occupant co-borrowers are allowed. Co-signers are allowed. That is a mistype there. So you can have co-signers, but you can't have a non-occupying co-borrower. You know, everybody living in the property has to qualify. Everyone living in the property has to qualify. Can't have a non-occupant co-borrower, but you can have a co-signer. Okay, you can have a co-signer. That's a correction on the PowerPoint. So I want to repeat, you can have a co-signer to be eligible for this program to help you if your income is not enough. But you have to occupy the property, and everyone associated with the transaction has to occupy the property as a co-borrower. Program eligibility. This is for single-family residences only. You cannot use this program to buy a 2-unit, 3-unit, or 4-unit building. You have to be bringing in the money or getting a gift from a relative or something like that. You can't use the funds on this program to buy anything other than a single-family home or a manufactured home. It has to be a 1-unit property. If it's in a condominium, it has to be FHA approved. whether it be as PUD or planned unit development or condominium with association, it's got to be approved. As I mentioned, ineligible properties are 2 to 4 unit properties, rental properties, co-ops, investment properties, second homes, vacation homes, recreational homes. You can't use the funds for any of that type of lending. So the underwriting guidelines is pretty straightforward. A minimum FICO score 620. And I tell you, if you're close to 620, I can help you get there. If you're 580, 590, 600, there's so many ways, so many strategies. Call me and let's talk about it. We'll help you for free. Non-traditional credit lines are not possible. You have to have credit. We don't use traditional credit. You have to have credit to qualify for the program. The debt ratio is determined by an automated underwriting system. You have to be approved and eligible for the program by the Fannie Mae Desktop Underwriter. The highest the debt ratio can be is 56.9% with a Fannie Mae Desktop Underwriting approval. If we can't get you approved through the Fannie Mae system, you can still get the loan. You have to meet the what we call manual underwriting guidelines, and that's a 31 front-end ratio, a 43 back-end ratio. That means your housing expense can exceed 31% of your income, and your total expense can exceed 43% of your income. And you may be required to have reserves, between 1 to 3 months reserves, if you can't qualify through the automated underwriting system. But no reserves are required when you are DU approved. So that's the program. Again, it's not limited for first-time home buyers. Anybody can get in this program as long as you meet the income requirements and the loan limits. There's no recapture tax if the home is sold later. So you're not held down by these many rules and restrictions that you'll find in a lot of the county and city down payment assistance programs. There's no sales price limit, but there is a loan limit. And again, the financing is available. We can cover down payment or the closing costs or both. The maximum combined loan to value is 96.5%. The Sapphire is taking care of the lender fee as well as a down payment. And so you have little to no money down. And in fact, you really have no money down as far as the minimum contribution is required. The Sapphire program is taking care of that. And then if you're able to get a seller credit, then all your costs are taken care of and you can get in with little to no money down. Debt ratios, again, can go as high as 56.9%. This is for single family homes only. You can't buy investment properties with this program. You can get a manufactured home. That's another way to find something affordable. The minimum FICO score is higher when you get a manufactured home. You have to have a 680 FICO score for a manufactured home. The seller credit can be as high as 6% on this program, and the grant can be as high as 5% or as low as 3%. So it just depends on how much money you need and what interest rate you want to have. The 5% grant represents the highest interest rate. Again, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. This program is for FHA, VA, and USDA. And if you're a veteran, you already have 100% financing. So imagine this grant money being used to cover your closing costs. And so now you don't have to rely on the seller to provide any credit for the closing costs. You can use the grant. It's a great program for VA loans. The maximum loan amount is $417 or the HUD limit for the county it's in. So there are certain counties where the HUD limit is really low, like in the high 200s, 271. Riverside is 335. So the maximum you can borrow is $417,000. This program is available in California only. It was available in Nevada, but the program, there's some challenges in Nevada, so it doesn't exist in Nevada anymore at this time. And our hope and prayer is that this program will be available in California for years to come, but there are no guarantees. In fact, you have no commitment or reservation for the money until you're under contract. So you need to get pre-approved and you need to get started right away. All right. So we're going to open it up now for Q&A. and see if anyone has any questions. If you do, you can just simply click on the chat button and type any questions you may have in the chat room. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the presentation. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up the presentation. And let's see. Oh, we have one request. Okay, so we have no questions during the Q&A, and so we're going to move right along and complete this presentation. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight in the Power is Now. Please remember to go to the Buyers and Sellers Club. You can find it at neverrentagain.com. The Buyers and Sellers Club is going to be a great resource for you. I promise you will not be disappointed in all the resources we have available for anyone who is looking to buy or sell real estate. The Power is Now is determined to help as many people as possible to acquire a home in 2016. And we're going to leverage the Sapphire program and other programs like it to help first-time home buyers become a homeowner. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us on this webinar. Please tell others about it. You can find out about the next webinar on thepowerisnow.com. Go to the events tab on thepowerisnow.com and you'll find the next upcoming webinar on the Power is Now Buyers and Sellers Club. Thank you for joining me this evening. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome evening. See you next week. See you right here on the Power is Now Online Radio.